Hello and welcome to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast by College Baseball Advisors. I'm your host, Wayne Mazzoni. On the podcast, we talk about everything related to coaches' journeys in college baseball, the recruiting process, player development, culture, etc. I coach college baseball 30 years and currently run College Baseball Advisors. For more information on what I do, please visit my website, collegebaseballadvisor.com. In addition, I created a free, simple 6-page roadmap for parents of high school baseball players very confused and overwhelmed with the recruiting process. To get a copy of that, go to go.collegebaseballadvisor.com/roadmap and just enter your email. It'll get sent to your inbox. On today's episode, we had Dan Skirka, who's the head baseball coach at Murray State. If you're a college baseball fan, you know the year they had last year, making it to the College World Series, akin to the 2012 Stony Brook team making it there. As you'll hear Dan say on the podcast, he doesn't like the term Cinderella team because that discounts the hard work and the really good players that were had. But of course, a team at that level making it that far, took everyone captive, and Dan, of course, has probably been sought out a lot since doing that with his program. We covered a lot of stuff here about his upbringing in Michigan, basically playing all sports with three older brothers, his playing journey, his coaching journey, which is quite interesting, as you'll hear. But it included a 5-year stint at Murray State, where he is now. That coaching staff got let go. He went and spent 4 years as an assistant coach at Walter State Community College. And then when the job came open again at Murray State, was, able to take over that program, which he, of course, says he's fortunate. I say that obviously his 5 years while he was working there, people got to know what kind of coach and person he was. And then, of course, we talked all things about Murray State, from the recruiting process and how the role of the portal, how he finds players through the portal, what process he goes through to decide if he wants to offer them. We talked a lot about using Zooms, especially during the run last year. He's Zooming with players in the portal to get to know them because obviously can't meet them in person. We talked, of course, about what culture is, a little bit about the modern scouting process of upcoming opponents, which he really said was more for his coaching staff as opposed to giving all that information to the players. He likes the players to keep it simpler and let them be free and loose. So really good conversation, a lot to unpack. Certainly a charismatic coach, even not trying to be. He's just a guy that makes you fired up and want to play for him. So without further delay, here's my conversation with Dan Skirka, head baseball coach at Murray State. All right, Coach. First of all, I really appreciate you to joining me, no matter when it would be during the year. But the fact that it's the Thursday before its opening day tomorrow, either you're just a stand-up guy, or maybe, I don't know, I have some attractive quality that makes you want to do this the day before the season starts. So first and foremost, I appreciate it. And I, I I'm only asking this question because I always start off the same way. I like to find out about people's background when they were younger playing sports. But I will ask this question first, and you don't have to answer. You could just say pass, and we move on to the next thing. Are you a fan of pushing the season back a couple of weeks, or you don't care what the deal is?
I think so. I haven't given a whole lot of thought, but just the way the weather's been really the last 5, 6 years, it's tough on these kids. They're not ready to compete and pitch counts and just even level of play. I mean, there's so many teams that have not been outside or only been outside a handful of times, and that just really stinks. Major League Baseball, those guys get a month, down at spring training to take ground balls and see fly balls and have at bats and throw bullpens. And there's so many teams across the country that don't get outside. So don't know the logistics of it. I know there's a lot involved with the back end of everything,
Yeah,
but if we could and make it work, I probably would vote yes.
that makes sense. Yeah, I think you're right. The back end means school is out, kids are on campus, and someone's paying for that. So, right, it's definitely a money piece for sure, no question. Um, I think I have this part right. Were you born and raised in Michigan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so obviously everyone that comes on this podcast is a baseball guy. So my first kind of question is, were you playing a bunch of sports growing up, or was baseball your one and only?
I was. I had three older brothers growing up, so and we played whatever sport was in season. And then during the summers, we played all of them, right? So, fall heavy football. In the winter, we'd have to shovel our driveway and play ball in the backyard when the gyms weren't open. And then obviously once the snow melted and spring broke, up there it was baseball and usually baseball all summer. But no, we did. We played everything growing up and really enjoyed competing in all of them. And I think it made me a more well-rounded athlete, a competitor. So I was a big fan of that. Glad I did it. And I usually encourage, recruits or family friends when kids are asking, should I give up this and focus on that? I'm like, nah, play it and become better, and you'll have plenty of time to focus on one area.
I love that, and I agree completely because I'm older than you. I grew up where you never considered not playing your other sport. But if I grew up now, I know the pressures would be there to just do baseball or maybe whatever your sport is. But I agree with you completely. I know one thing: Jim Penders, who's in UConn, would always tell recruits, like after you commit, if you drop your other sport, I'm going to lose interest in you because that means you're not really dedicated to. I want you to play that other sport because you're going to develop, in so many ways. But when was it? I assume at some point in high school you knew the goal was to play college baseball for yourself.
Yeah, I actually got recruited to play basketball first.
Wow.
Yeah, was a solid little guard. Could score, could rebound, could play the game, and was getting some interest, some phone calls and letters and whatnot. From basketball, but really did. I actually, to be honest with you, I love football more. I was a quarterback, and loved slinging the football around, and that was really a passion of mine, and a big Peyton Manning, Brett Favre fan growing up, and but then I got hurt pitching one summer. And had to kind of shelf football. You can't be a quarterback if the right arm's not working.
Right.
So then I got heavier into basketball and baseball, and then actually converted from a pitcher and utility guy into more of a shortstop. And then kind of the game just blossomed for me. I loved playing shortstop and seeing everything unfold and moving guys around and just and then obviously I knew I wanted to coach. So kind of went hand in hand, just learning the game and deep dives into that, and developed really good relationships with my coaches during my playing career. So was very fortunate to be around some really great coaches during that time.
Well, my last person I had on here was Tracy Smith, who I don't know if you know Tracy in general or even from the Mohegan Convention where he was there, and he talked about
I met him
basically.
up there at the Mohegan. Yeah.
Yeah, that he thought he was possibly going to play college basketball, and then even his, obviously he's head coach in Michigan now, baseball. He started his career coaching basketball, and then I'm up to about 80 people doing this podcast. You're probably in the 20th guy that said they love football as much as anything else, and I don't know if that's a coaching thing because like I always found in football, the harder you try, the better you always do. And so guys that are effort guys, like coaches, love that. Whereas baseball, of course, you're gonna do better when you try harder, but boy, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Doesn't always mean you're gonna do better in baseball, right?
Year one, and I had to learn that as a player. I was the overachieving, the little less talented guy that had to dig in and work harder. So you're probably right on that.
So you said something interesting I want to follow up on. Was it during whether it was at your community college or at Grand Valley, were you at that point knew you wanted to coach?
Yeah, I remember definitely my freshman year of junior college because I actually had a notebook and was keeping track of all the stuff, the workouts, the game plans, all that stuff, and was already kind of starting my coaching database as a freshman in junior college. So at least at that point, I knew I wanted to go into coaching. I was thinking it was going to be high school baseball, teach middle school was kind of my plan, and coach high school baseball. But then as I got towards my senior year, that was when my assistant coach at Grand Valley State, Jamie Detillion, kind of pulled me aside one day and was like, "Man, you might want to do this college thing before you take a high school teaching job because kind of hard to go the other route, right? Could always get into college, try to get a GA spot as they were more prevalent back then, and get your master's paid for and dabble in it and see if it's something you want to do, and then if not, I'd have my teaching degree." So very fortunate that he gave me that advice, and obviously I haven't turned back, haven't gone into the coaching route yet, or the teaching
So,
route yet. Sorry.
yeah. So, interestingly enough, like it's pretty rare that people that young, all the guys I've had on, they got into coaching kind of in an interesting way. Rarely do I hear a person that knew that young that they wanted to coach. Do you have any idea where that came from? Is that from the
I
older
probably just wasn't
brothers?
that good of a player.
Uh, I doubt that was but even if you're not that good of a player, most guys
Yeah.
in their freshman year are not taking notes about coaching stuff.
Yeah, I always, even I think it goes back to the football side a little bit. As quarterback, like I knew what everybody was doing on the field, and I really liked that. I'd call the play in the huddle, and I could see somebody give me a blank stare, and it was like, all right, you're the left tackle. Hey, you got to hit this guy, and if this play, then we're combo blocking there, and it's like I just, and then the same thing in the neighborhood growing up. I was the guy that always organized the games, and ride my bike around the neighborhood, knocking on doors and calling buddies and telling them to come play baseball or basketball, whatever it was. So just really always enjoyed the game and the competitiveness of it, the strategy behind it. I mean, it probably just coming with my three older brothers would be I think probably the biggest influence because we were always there. I was always at their games. When you're the youngest one, you're the tag along, and just I don't really know anything other than sports, so coaching just always made sense to me.
Do any of those three coach?
No, no. Well, my oldest brother, yeah, he coached his daughters in some fast pitch softball.
Right.
But other than that, no, none of them have gotten into it. So.
Okay, cool. So your first actual coaching job, I have it down. Was that at Grand Valley Community College?
Grand Rapids Community College. So
Oh,
my
Grand
fifth
Rapids.
year,
Okay.
I got done with my playing career, and I still had a fifth year of student teaching. So was kind of looking around, trying to build the resume, get some experience. You're a student athlete, and that takes up all your time. And then all of a sudden, I was a student teacher, and that seemed like cake. I didn't had nothing to do. School was out, and
Right.
I had nothing to do. So I found a place to go help. I did it as much as I could, and then I taught at a indoor facility up there in Michigan, giving lessons on the weekends.
And then so you were there how long at Grand Rapids?
Just a semester, really. Even into the spring semester, I couldn't do it as much. I got more busy with the student teaching. But they ended up going to the World Series. Coach Couples there was awesome, awesome human being. And then then I graduated, and that summer trying to find a job, couldn't really get anything. Then it was later in the summer that I got a call from Ouachita Baptist down in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, Division II school. They had a GA lined up, and then I think he bailed on them, so they had to go back through the hiring process, and I applied the first time. So they gave me a call, and I was actually with my fiance at that time, eating some ice cream on the beach in South Haven, Michigan, at the beautiful lakes, and got the call, and we talked about it. She's like, "You got to do it." So next morning, got in the car, drove 10 hours down to Joplin, Missouri, met the coaching staff at a truck stop. We had some Wendy's. We sat there and talked baseball for about 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it was, and interviewed, and then I turned around and drove back to Michigan. And on the drive back, they called and offered me the spot, and I accepted, and I guess packed up and moved down to Arkansas.
So was there a time because you had just finished the schooling? It seemed like, if I'm correct, you are now certified to teach. You met all the requirements. You probably could have got hired. Did you waffle a little of like, hey, maybe I just do this teaching thing, or you knew
Never,
college?
never
Never.
even applied for a teaching position.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you pronounce the school again? I tried several times.
Yeah. Ouachita Baptist.
Ouachita Baptist. You were coached there for how long?
Just a year. I was a GA, making
Right.
$5,000, and they paid for my school. And we got towards that spring, and the position actually got cut. Coach was going to keep me there. It was going to fundraise for my position, but then I kind of started looking around, and that was when I got an opportunity at Murray State as an assistant coach, kind of the same gig as a GA. Division I. went and interviewed, met Coach McDonald, awesome human being. Thought it was a no-brainer. So just 1 year down in Arkansas, and then went to Murray State as an assistant coach. Worked my way from the part-time GA spot up to the full-time assistant in my 5 years there. And when I was done, I was the recruiting coordinator and all that after 5 years of being an assistant.
So getting that job at Murray State, this was not a school like your goal. Obviously, you're a head coach at Murray State now. You didn't grow up saying, I can't wait to get to Murray State. It was obviously an opportunity to be an assistant. Did you have any connection or did you just apply for the position?
Yeah, there was a connection. The head coach at Ouachita was a Murray State grad, actually, and then the pitching coach Luke Howard worked there previously, so there was a connection there. And like I said, after my position was kind of the school wasn't investing in it anymore. They were helping me out, so got the interview, and rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, obviously you were a qualified coach. You wouldn't have recommended you to Murray State, but it is interesting. A lot of these early jobs,
Always connections.
always connections. Exactly right. So you're at Murray, and it's interesting. You strike me as a guy. I don't know if you've ever met him. I coached him when I was at Sacred Heart. JJ Edwards. JJ Edwards was a hardworking. Got 76 hits his senior year. 75 of them were singles. Couldn't really play, but he was a leader, and he was good and annoying because he was already a coach when he was at the school. He goes to Wofford and starts as the volunteer, then moves to the third assistant, the second assistant, the first assistant, the associate head coach. Todd Interdonato takes the job at BC, and JJ takes over at Wofford, where he's entering his third year. And like, no matter how you start, if you have the skills and the grit and the work ethic, it's going to rise to the top, which sounds like exactly what happened to you. After 5 years at Murray State, you go to Walters as the head coach, correct?
Assistant.
Oh, you were the assistant. I did not know that.
Yes, sir.
Somewhere in
Yeah.
that
No, it's
bio, with
it's
somewhere in that bio, I got to
yeah,
yell at
it's
somebody.
pretty unique. You know, it, and this is the coaching world, right? So fifth year at Murray, finally get that full-time recruiting coordinator spot as an assistant coach. Me and my wife are fired up, and we buy a house in Murray and we move in Labor Day weekend. We didn't have the greatest season that year, and by Memorial Day, we're let go. The head coach is no longer under contract, did not get renewed. So you're like less than a year. We saved up all this money. We went from making 5,000 to 12,000 to finally full time, and we're fired up, and we had our first house for less than a year. So that's coaching world, right? And then you got a choice to make. You're gonna go a different avenue. You're gonna go a different route. And I had options. Had buddies calling me in insurance and different avenues and different realms, and I didn't want to, right? So I made phone calls and networked, and Coach Shelton at Walter State had an opening. He just took over the previous year at Christmas, so was looking for an assistant coach, full-time assistant coach, and always had great respect for that program, right? One of the top junior colleges in the country. And I had kind of a choice to make on the coaching side. I had some D1 opportunities to pursue, and I just said, man, for whatever reason, God put it in my heart to get over to Walters, and it was such a blessing to work with Coach Shelton and really develop my game plan. Right, I was getting older. I've been through it, and then at the junior college level, you get so much time to just work with those guys and to develop them and pour into them, and he took a lot off my plate. I mean, my job was recruiting and development, and that's what I did. There was a lot of days where I never stepped foot in the office. I went right to the field, worked early with guys in the cages, infielders, catchers. We'd eat lunch at the field, and then get right back out there in team practice, and then I'd go watch a high school game at night, and it was really cool. And obviously the success that Walters had, you're around Division I coaches all the time. We were around pro scouts and cross checkers and all that, and I was able to work with the Atlanta Braves really close as a junior college assistant. You're allowed to do those things, and just learned a lot and soaked it all up, and really just kind of kept putting in the work while I waited. Coach Shelton and I knew, the plan was never to really stay at Walters forever. 4 years were great. It was awesome. We were one game away from being national champions in 2018, and I kind of wish we could have done that together. But then it was to be prepared for the next spot, whatever that was. So really got to dig in.
No, that's cool. I'm sure while you love this job you have now, that I know what kind of guy you are. You're probably a little part of you looks back on those days at Walters and goes, man, I didn't have anything else to do except work with the players. That was, probably a part of you misses that because every coach, head coach,
100%.
yeah,
That's
right.
the best part of one of the best parts of my day is when I finally get out to the field and see our guys and they bring the energy and we just get to work, get after it. So yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, I hear that. Listen, I hear that all the time for sure. So then I want to make sure I have this right. After Walters, you're back to Murray State as the head coach, correct?
Yeah, which, even some of my friends didn't think I had a shot at getting the job, right? They're like, why would Murray State hire a junior college assistant coach? I mean, I had no head coaching resume, no track record. But they did. Alan Ward, our athletic director, took a chance on a junior college assistant. And it sounds crazy, but I'm sure glad he did and very blessed that he did and gratitude for him and in debt to him and his vision. But yeah, and then it was go time, man, and jump right into it and
Well,
be a
let
head
me
coach.
let me ask you two questions about that first. First thing was the guy that hired you, was he there when you were there as an assistant?
Yes, sir.
Right. So it's not starting from scratch. He knows what kind of person you are and what kind of coach. And I'm sure if he did his homework, which it sounds like he did, he's going to talk to players that were there and you got rave reviews. So you could say, yes, took a chance on a junior college guy, but I think your time at Murray State probably proved that you were the right guy for this position. Obviously, you get the job. So my first question is, this is now your first time running a program. It strikes me from me knowing you a little at Mohegan and now that the baseball side of it was an easy transition running the operation. Maybe I'm wrong, meaning setting practices, deciding who to recruit. And of course, there's now the administrative side. Which area was more of a learning curve, running the program baseball wise, or all the other stuff that goes along?
It really was all the other stuff, and we're in a much better spot now, 8 years later. But everybody we had basically involved in our program was a GA and was young. From the our trainer to our strength coach to our sports information director to my assistant coaches. They were all part time and young. So the turnover every single year
Mm.
was amazing, and it was great people, and I think that's what we were blessed with. We were very close to them. I was obviously younger as the head coach then too when I took over, so we were all closer in age. But you pour into them, you develop them. We got on the same page, and we had success in the spring. But then usually in the summer, everybody was leaving and going for different jobs, and you come back in the fall and you're like, all right, knew this, knew that, and it's like, and new players, and you were starting at square one, almost every fall, with the roster, with the staff. And that was really probably the toughest part because you poured into them, you got to know them, and then one by one they were leaving, and most of them for better jobs. So you're not, you weren't mad
Yeah,
at them or anything,
right.
but you're happy, and that's the point. But like I said, now we're in a better spot with some full-time positions, and we've been able to keep some people around our program for a lot longer, and it's paid off dividends. The trainer, the strength coach, my assistant coaches, we're all back for year two for the first time ever in my 8 years as head coach. So
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. We hit the ground running. So with 21 new players this year, I don't think they felt the effects of that. They got out to practice and we were all speaking the same language. We've all done the drills, weight room, easy transition. Trainer, she's awesome. She communicates well. She works her butt off. So, I think they all stepped in, those 21 newcomers, as part of a program with more people on the same page, and it's made a big, big difference.
During that time, were you ever able to hire anyone that had played for you in any of your jobs where they
Oh
basically,
yeah.
yeah, I'm saying, so
Oh
so
yeah.
they
Oh
knew a
yeah.
little bit about your style and how you want it. So that was a
Yeah.
little probably easier than
Yeah.
starting with a fresh person, right?
100%. And the two hitting coaches are the two that had played for me, and I actually got to spend multiple years with them at Walter State. So it was awesome because I do most of the hitting. So now we're speaking the same language. They've done all the drills. We've already had a relationship, so they weren't, scared, intimidated, shy to say something to me. Like we've had some of our better years offensively, I think, when those guys have been with us, and there's a reason.
During your time, like I've heard from, because you had mentioned earlier, one of the coaches basically said, hey, you should try this college thing before you go into teaching. I've heard a number of times with coaches that when their players even the head coach or something will see something in them and say, hey, you'd be a good coach. Did you, any of the guys that you hired, were they already in coaching, or did you reach out and say, hey, man, I think you'd be pretty good at this. You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, they were in different kind of a couple different positions, still involved in baseball, but they were not active like hitting coaches in college baseball. So involved in the sport around it, but I had to kind of give them the nudge and recruit them onto Murray State a little bit.
Got it. Okay. So obviously now let's your time at Murray State. I mean, first of all, it seems like this is what you're on the planet to do. I mean, really
I
it
agree.
is.
I agree.
And listen, I haven't coached in 3 years and I miss it every day. The only thing I don't miss is the schedule. So I like my schedule now, but there's nothing that can be a better job than being a college coach. Maybe at any sport, but certainly I know I see you laughing about the schedule, but whatever. You're all in, so I'm sure you're not sitting there on
I'm
a
all in,
yeah,
baby.
you're all in,
I'm all in.
exactly. Um, a couple of questions here. So, in 2012, I'm from Long Island. So in 2012, I was coaching at Sacred Heart. We made the NC State, won our conference, made the NC State regional. It was also the same year Stony Brook goes on and has their run. And I was locked into all that. I mean, so for them, I know that team much better than I know, your team from last year. They had ridiculously good players. They had ridiculously good players. I think 9 were drafted. Some made the bigs. Travis Jankowski still playing in the big leagues. Obviously, you had good years and 500 a little below above. I mean, was last year a combination of having the right players slash anything that Dan Skirka did anything differently than you had done over the course of your coaching career?
Yes, one, we had good players. Just stud human beings as much as they were players, right? Competitors, great teammates. I mean that team was special. And to answer your question, is something different? Of course, I like to think I do something different every year and get better in what we're doing. But be honest with you, no. I mean the process, was very similar to what we've done with, the previous couple seasons. The wild thing, and I've shared this a little bit, 2024, we had like 22 seniors, and we were kind of primed, and a bunch of them were returners. It wasn't, incoming kids. It was, man, we're back. We had a good year the year before. We won 34 games, I think. And it's like, man, we're primed and we're ready to go. And we won 37 games. It was the second most in school history in 2024. Our Friday night guy was a draft pick. Our shortstop was a draft pick. We had multiple other guys getting interest. So we knew we were good in 2024. Just, we had the 2 seed and we ran into a couple really good teams at our conference tournament, and you go 2-0 and season's over,
Right.
and that magical run just never got started, right? Last year, we bring in 28 newcomers. So we weren't that good to start, and it was a lot of the same thing with turnover with the coaches. We had 3 new assistant coaches on the offensive side. The only coach I returned was Steve Adkins, my pitching coach. So that process was tough and it was ugly. We got Western Kentucky and SEMO both beat us in our fall games. And it wasn't pretty, and we had to really learn how to compete as a team and learn that process. So, if anything, it wasn't anything different. I just maybe think we were better at it, right? As in my 18th year of coaching, whatever it was, 17th last year and 18th this year. So, but that team just clicked, and to be honest with you, it was conference tournament again last year, game 1, we were down. I don't remember what it was exactly, but we were down and kind of later in the game. And it was like, for a split second, I thought, and I was like, man, don't let this happen again. This is similar to what happened last year, but obviously split second, and then you're right back into the moment and what we needed to do. And then that team, won that game and then got hot, and I obviously, rode that wave. But no, I think talented players, and I've spoken often about this. I shared it with the team. Everybody calls it a Cinderella run. I said, man, I don't think it was Cinderella because that I think that takes away from what that team was capable of. It wasn't just they weren't just suddenly blessed with all
Right.
this fortune, and like they worked, they got after it. They were really good players. Three of them are in pro ball, and other ones that had opportunities, and we got some young guys back that are prospects now, and it's like that team was really, really good, and they gelled and they did it the right way. So, don't want to take away anything from their ability or how they did it.
So this could be a recruiting question. It may not be, but last year you had a bunch of new guys. This year you have a bunch of new guys. Is that is that life at Murray State? Will that be what happens year after year?
Well, I think it's kind of life in college
Yeah,
athletics,
yeah,
a little bit. Just to give you a kind of a quick rundown of it, yeah, the year before we had 22 seniors, so we knew we would have a lot of turnover, and then there was
right.
six more guys that, either retired from college baseball or moved on. So yeah, we brought in 28 newcomers last year. Again, two juniors get drafted, a couple more guys transfer, and you brought in some seniors to replace those 22 seniors the year before to try to, have experience and ability and talent. And then this year, we go on that Omaha run, so it's kind of tough to recruit in
Right. Of course.
May and
Yeah.
June when we were on the road
Great
playing,
point. Yeah.
and the first time doing it, guilty, right? Like I had no idea. I mean, I was in the hotel at the Duke Regional, Super Regional, doing Zooms with transfers and talking to junior college kids, and it's like, man, you're trying to win these Super Regional, and then we're in Omaha, and I'm talking to kids as I'm walking around the city block there in Omaha, and we were at the zoo for the opening ceremony, and I'm talking to another recruit, and it's like, man, just so didn't know. But then, by the time we got back to Murray, it's the middle of June, and we hit the portal pretty hard, and it just so happened that we hit a bunch of seniors. So again, we got 22 seniors, I think, on this year's team. So we'll be in the same boat again next year, bringing in a lot of new faces, and just kind of, like I said, I think it's kind of college athletics. You're in that cycle, and you want to be good, you want to be talented, and now we're able to attract a high level person and player. So a lot of times that's juniors and seniors, and you only have them for a year.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great point. I mean, again, in my coaching career, which pales to yours, but a lot of conference tournaments and regionals. And while you're excited about that, you are a little bit stressed that like recruiting is going on. And of course, now they put a couple of dead periods in, which is nice. But
Very
right,
nice.
yeah, by the time last year ended, that's the latest you've ever been involved in baseball, right? So yeah,
Yeah, by about 3 weeks.
yeah, right. And I feel a little bad for you. I mean, you probably don't feel bad for you. It's like here you are trying to win, super regionals and win a College World Series, and yet like you got to spend all your time getting transfers. I mean, but that's I guess the business. I mean,
It
that's
is, yeah. I think of one kid in particular. He wouldn't wait for us to get back from Omaha to visit. Like he's like, I got to make a decision. I was like, no, you don't. It's June. Like we're in Omaha. Like you literally cannot visit Murray. We're not there. So
right, right.
he
Yeah,
committed elsewhere. I was like, man, I just wish he would have waited, another week, and we could have, sat down and had a meal and figured out if we wanted to be a racer or not. But
right,
that's all
right.
right.
Yeah. Just I'm going to ask you one more recruiting slash portal question, and then two more after that. Um, Obviously, I kind of got out of coaching in 22 just as the portal and all the various things were hitting, et cetera. So I think I have an idea of what a coach does to evaluate a potential kid in the portal. I think the first thing you're going to do, and you tell me where I'm wrong, is you're going to look at some stats, right? That's the most obvious thing. Second thing, you're going to probably get on Synergy, which I assume is what most people are still using. You're going to actually watch this kid play. What am I missing after that? Are you actually possibly trying to see this kid in summer ball? Are you talking to coaches to find out about his character? What's the next? Because there's a lot of kids coming off last year. You probably have a lot of kids interested in Murray State. So what
Yeah.
makes you move ahead with a kid?
The network. You hit that nail on the head. We can't afford to drive around and watch all these guys in summer ball like some other programs. I mean, I would, and I know it. There's coaches and programs that spend their whole summer flying from this summer league to that summer league to this
Yes,
summer
they
league,
do.
and they're chasing these portal guys, and we just can't afford that. And so we do exactly what you said. Like it's stats. it's video. All right, this guy moves the way we like. He's got what we're looking for, and then we dig in on the person and figure out if that's the person we want to have in our program. And then the next thing is Zooms. That's the best thing. It's he's in summer ball playing in wherever, the Carolinas or the Northeast, but his family's in the Midwest, and
Right.
all of us, including my assistant coaches, can hop on a Zoom and we can talk. And we're not in the same room, but we can get some face-to-face time and kind of build that relationship.
Yeah, I mean that's something that didn't hit my era, but that's a great point. You're right. You and your coaches are various places. This kid's playing somewhere and his family's somewhere else. That's a great use of this modern technology. There's no question
Great,
about
great
it.
use. But then also when I'm vacationing in Michigan trying to see my family, I also have three Zooms lined up with recruits. So I got to find a room where nobody is to jump on and
That
talk to a
I
kid. So
right.
it's a blessing and a curse. I love it. I'm not complaining about it,
I
but
know what you're
it
saying.
is. And we've used it to our advantage with that, right? Like, hey, before I jump on a plane or before we bring you in on a visit, like let's get some face-to-face time. Let's get some questions answered. You may not like what I have to say about our program and how we do things, or and we can stop that and save everybody the time and the resources. But it's been a good thing. I think these Zooms, about probably the only thing that came out of the COVID shutdown.
Exactly. Um, you gave a speech at Mohegan, and I was not there for it because I was kind of doing the boardroom thing where you and I had a session too. But I know culture was a big part of the topic. Without this is probably what you've been asked about more than anything else. So, however you want to answer it, especially with all these new guys coming in, what does that mean to you? What is that? What does the culture piece mean to you? Is that something that's specifically written down, or is that just the way you run the program and people follow suit?
It's every day. It's every day. And I tell my team, and when I give those talks with coaches, it's the number one thing on my mind. Is this team doing things the right way? Are they competing? Are they showing up to practice? Are they taking care of each other? All those things. And it's everything that we do. It really is. From talks I give to them, to the things I encourage, to the things we, you know, I don't want to say punish, but hold them accountable to. That's it's everything. And I think that's what the kids want.
Yeah, I think.
That's what they bought into. And that's, when we get these transfers from other programs, um, they love it, that they're here and they're part of a team, and everybody's on the same page, and and it might sound cliche, but it's like, man, that's what these 18 to 23-year-olds are looking for, whether they've been at P4 programs or junior college, or they're coming to us straight out of high school. Like, that's the experience that they're looking for. And we're going to pour into them, and we're going to hold them accountable. It ain't easy. It's not easy on me or the coaches. It's not easy on the players. But ultimately, like, that's when we get the buy-in, and then they can just get after it and they enjoy it. It's one of the coolest things this fall. One of our incoming junior college transfers just kind of grabbed. We were just talking. It was actually in the hallway. I think he was going to hit in our indoor. He just kind of looks at me. He goes, "Coach, I don't know how you got all 40 of these dudes in the same team. Like, they're awesome." And I was just like, "Whoa, like that's special, right?" Like, he probably didn't even realize it, but it's like, man, that's why we do it. It is to find the right mix of human beings and to pour into them. And they're having group Bible studies and small groups, and they're going to FCA, and then they're going out to eat together, and they're hitting together, and that chemistry, that culture, that's what they're going to remember the rest of their lives. These teammates and the stories. And we're about to get on the road for 5 weeks here because they're redoing our infield, and these bus rides and trips. That's what they're going to remember. And hopefully, under my umbrella, that's learning the lessons that this game will teach them also for life. But that's the experience we're trying to give them, and that's what we've told recruits from day one, right? And we're gonna compete like crazy. I'm gonna develop you as a human being, try to get you to be the best version of yourself. Obviously, Omaha was a byproduct of that, and it's not our goal now. I told the same story this summer on Zooms to recruits and parents. Like, I can't promise you we're going to win a championship and go to a regional. Obviously, we're going to try like crazy, but we can tell you that you're going to have the same experience that these other guys had, and the same effort from us coaches, and you're going to be around great people.
No, that's really well said. And I always say most of the kids at almost every level of college baseball, they're crazy into it. They're motivated. They want to be good. They have the structure. And then certain kids, certain times, they need a foot up their butt, man. They just do, right? And we're there to do that when they need it. But it usually seems that once the coach has done the proper job and has the right kids and the team's feeding upon itself, the job gets easier for the coach because they self-police. And that's the way to, that's what you ultimately want, is just as you had said about their hitting groups or Bible study, et cetera. Um, two last questions. One is, and feel free again, as I started to say, hey, I don't want to talk about how we do this here at Murray State, but the scouting process of upcoming opponents has changed a lot from my time in college baseball, but I think it's gone even further since I've left college baseball. We used to get obviously pour over stats. We would use spray charts. Eventually, when Synergy came in there, I was a pitching guy. I would get on and watch all at bats of opposing hitters and whatnot. Um, but I don't know. I feel like in a way that was more for me. I wasn't prepping the pitchers on, and maybe I would tell them, hey, listen, there are three guys hot right now. We gotta avoid, or you're prepping certain things, but it was more for me and the catcher, if you will. Going into this opening series, how much is being passed along to the players, hitters, pitchers, defenders, whatever, to prep them on the series?
Not a whole lot. We want to be really good at what we do. I try to simplify it, and we might be the outlier. I don't know how other people do it, but we really try to keep it simple. Like you said, it's not from a lack of effort or knowledge on the coaches. We are very well versed in what the opponent does, so on and so forth. But our guys got to play. They got to play free. They got to play. They got to be able to compete. And I just don't think they can do that when they have too much on their mind. So we keep it relatively simple. We tell them what they need to know, but for the most part, it hasn't probably changed a whole lot from when you just did it a couple years ago in that aspect. The tools for us have changed, and they keep coming out with more and more and more.
Yes.
Um, but I think I have to be organized. I have to make sure my assistant coaches are um, doing their strengths, right? We mentioned, it's first year back with these guys, so we were able to learn, who was good at what and what to put on this guy's plate and what to take off of that guy's plate and find the right mix there. But yeah, my coaching staff does a great job with all that. So
Good. Yeah, that makes sense. It's
yeah.
the coaches are prepared to the highest level, but what they pass on is what they feel is needed. And you're right. If you overload them, it's paralysis by analysis, and kids can't play baseball that way.
And I'll share a little tidbit, like we got all these numbers and everything, but last year, our offense was pretty good. Teams would do different things against us. And it was like we'd go in and, you tell them all right, this pitcher does this, but then he doesn't do that against the racers. And you kind of lose all credit to the right coach. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but when you're a different type of hitter, you get in that box. Our leadoff guy was a stud, ended up hitting 22 home runs. I was like, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you, buddy. So just be ready. Like, I don't know, throw the numbers out the window. They're going to do whatever they can to try to get you out. So
No, that's a great point. And I don't think it happens anymore now with all the technology. But I remember in the days of trading scouting reports, right? Like you'd play a team and I'd get your scouting report. And then it dawned on me that, early in the season, the teams that we'd be facing in conference are playing, South Carolina and Clemson. And when I get the Clemson scouting report and says guy can't handle a fastball, it's a different fastball than my guy has.
90's
So
different than 95, 96. Yeah.
yes, exactly right. Exactly. All right. The last thing then is Mohegan Sun World Baseball Coaches Convention, where we met at, sponsors this podcast. They've been really great. Obviously, allowed you and I to meet. But I always ask this question of there's a high school kid out there. He's a sophomore, he's a junior. He wants to play college baseball at any level. Maybe he wants to be at Murray State and play for you, whatever. What would you tell this kid? Hey, here's the one or two things that have to be part of your life at this stage to get to the level of being a college baseball recruit, which we know is really competitive.
Weight room, strength. I think that's been the biggest thing as far as kids making the jump. Um, to be prepared, right? There's a lot of talent out there, but to be able to do it day in and day out at a consistent level, right? You just can't have that inconsistency of, I'm sore this day or I'm just too weak. I can't, play this game for we do it for 3 months in the fall, and then we come back and do it, 5 months straight in the spring. You gotta have some strength to you. So I always encourage high school kids, get in the weight room, start getting after it there, just to prepare your body for the grind that baseball is. And it's that and the work ethic. I mean, you have to work at this game, and it'll beat you down. It won't reward you right away, and sometimes it won't reward you at all. But
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, if you're a pitcher, catcher, hitter, I mean, this game, and that's I think the beautiful thing about it is you can't just show up and be good at this game. You got to put in the work.
It's interesting too, because I've heard, the weight room, which is not a, we know you got to be strong, but I think it's now different maybe with the portal when you might be staring at two kids to make a decision of one's a high school kid, maybe one is a possible portal kid, although I know it's maybe different for needs, but it's like if this kid is a junior is 160 pounds and the kid, in the portal is 205, that's kind of becomes a no-brainer, right? So these kids need not to pressure them, but they kind of got to get physical earlier because they're competing with older kids.
Yeah, I think it just helps you prepare more. It's and maybe it just goes back to my playing career too. I didn't really, I was in 2 years in junior college and dealt with some injuries, but I didn't really get after it in the weight room the way I should have. I think it would have prepared me better. So maybe I got that in the back of my mind, but just think it does. It just helps you. And I think in every avenue, the grind of playing college baseball is real, and a lot of people talk about it and glorify it, but it's real. And the guys that are strong and can handle that, and I think the weight room you can build some of that toughness, whatever high school program you're at, some of these guys, most of them are the best player at their school, right? They've always
Yeah.
been kind of big fish, small pond, no matter how big that pond is in high school, and they've never been punched in the mouth. And you get in the weight room and you put weight on that bar, it's heavy and it's not fun. You got to get in there. And a lot of times you're in there by yourself. You're there in there in the morning. You're in there, after school or, after practice. And that's hard. And doing those hard things, I think also prepares you because then when you get on campus and you're 18 and you're facing 22-year-olds, you're prepared for hard.
Yeah.
You've been grinding, you've been putting in the work. So, facing a dude that's 93 with the nastiest stuff you've ever seen isn't as hard because you've kind of learned that toughness mindset. And I'm going to give you a plug here with the Mohegan. That was unbelievable. And this was unsolicited by you guys, but I came back and I told my coaching staff, I said, man, I'd love to take our whole coaching staff up there. Just the whole thing. It was first class people. The clinics were awesome. The experience up there was phenomenal. So if anybody's listening that hasn't been there, I highly encourage it. I hopefully get invited back at some point. I took my wife with me. She loved it. Next time I got a 10-year-old kid. I think, if I get the invite back up there, I'm going to bring him up with me because it was awesome. It was a really good experience.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a great venue, that venue, but also what I like about it is I've been to the ABCA and no knock against that, but that's a little bit overwhelming feeling. It's a lot of people. This is like this not, and it's still a good size, but it seems more manageable, if you will, to me anyway. And you're right. And the conversations you have, not only in the clinics, but just meeting people on the side is just awesome. So I agree with you.
Yeah, you're right in that aspect because I ran into a couple people multiple times, so it was nice. They came up, asked me a question after my presentation. Then I saw them a little bit later, and then I saw them the next day, and it was like, all right, now we can have a little deeper conversation, and that's what it's about, right? The relationship piece and sharing and growing the game. So it was great experience.
Yeah. And then just back to my final thing is on the grind of the college season. We know the major league season is a massive grind, but it's a little different sometimes. Of course, the minor league season might be the grind where you're in buses, et cetera, right? That's the real grind. In the big leagues, yeah, it's still a long season, but you got first class travel and per diems and hotels and et cetera. Being a Division I player with class, with some guys living in their own apartment on their own and cooking for themselves and dealing with plumbing going on the first time, and it's like it could be a lot. So you're certainly academically, your grades better be in order because if you get to the end of the season when it's crunch time and making the tournament and then winning it and then going on and you're great and you're stressed out about your schoolwork, that's not a fun place to be. It's going to affect you on the field. So it's definitely a grind. But coach, I really appreciate you spending time with me the day before the season starts and you guys traveling today. So I wish you the best of luck this season. I'm certainly going to follow it. And
Thank you.
you have the right mindset of just taking it a day at a time and loving what you do. So it's really appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dan Skirka from Murray State. Really, really good guy, really great coach, obviously. Again, my name is Wayne Mazzoni. I coached college baseball 30 years, and now I'm a baseball recruiting advisor. For more information about what I do, you can visit my website, collegebaseballadvisor.com. I look forward to our future episodes. One of them upcoming is with Brian Casey, who's the head baseball coach at Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut. And it'll be really neat to hear about not only his background in a coaching family, but of course, the life of coaching, recruiting, and being a student at Coast Guard. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.